Hi everybody. Today I'd like to share with you some of my favorite mods and gameplay tips for Avalon Hill's old school classic board game, Football Strategy. Remember this quarterback? Me neither. Okay, so let's take a look at something originally designed in the early 1960s that does an excellent job of recreating a game of American football. So pull up a chair and get ready to play some sports without even having to go outside. Football Strategy at its core is a very simple card game that also incorporates some die rolling. Here's how it works. The player on offense has three different decks of cards. One deck has ball control plays, which get better results for a rushing game. One deck asserts the game through the air, better results for passing. And the third deck is a balanced deck, a blend of the previous two. The player who possesses the ball points to one of these decks to indicate to the defender which look he or she is going to give on the next down. The defender then selects an appropriate defensive formation from their deck of cards, and then both players flip their cards at the same time and then consult a matrix or chart, a very detailed chart, to see what happens. It even tells you how much time expires for each play. And also, there are three different charts for each style of offense. In addition, anytime that a situation arises when the ball gets kicked, a die roll occurs, and players consult different charts for punts, kickoffs, and extra point conversion results. A die is also rolled to determine the precise extent of long gain results. These are plays that have the potential to go over 45 yards. Another cool detail is that you lose plays on offense inside the 20-yard lines from your playbook. They aren't allowed. Even more plays become unavailable inside the 10-yard line. So it gets harder as you get closer to the end zones. Less room on the field equals fewer options. And that's all there is to it. So how does it play? You're asking? Really, really well, in my opinion. I would even say exceptionally well. Smoothly. It feels like real football. You can tell a lot of thought went into it. It has penalties, fumbles, interceptions, blocked punts, everything. The game generates realistic scoring drives and final scores. Now, the only obvious drawback is, and it's a fairly important one, is that it's old. We're talking old school. So what you see when you open the box is fairly basic for any edition of the game, actually. It's going to be cheap cards, plain looking board, simple looking charts, cheap D6, cheap football marker. It's low budget stuff. The overall graphic design of the game, too, is uninspired. It sort of looks like a high school accounting project. And that's how it was until 2016. Now, forget everything I just said about its dated appearance and related shortfalls. Somebody who goes by the name of Mr. Tricorder uploaded a graphic redesign of the game to BGG that you can get and apply over the original materials. Or you could start fresh and print and play from scratch like I did. As soon as I saw this stuff, I went, yes, back in business again. This guy deserves hero status in the gaming community for reviving a great classic title. It looks like new. There are even graphics, materials, and directions to construct a scoreboard with wheels and everything that you can use to keep track of time, scores, downs, etc. I don't use this because the original game record sheet is good enough for me, but regardless, it's there if you want it. And there is more. Guys who go by CR Paris, Fermoil, Geese, Fenway, and Molus Maximus Uploaded revised and condensed kicking charts with modernized playbooks. Hats off to all these guys. This is one reason why I love Board Game Geek. The game has changed for the better. This is what it looks like now. The offense, the defense, the kicking charts, the field, first down flags, the chains. I added my own sprite, a graphic from an even older football game, so I could have players on the field instead of a football icon. Now, since the files are easily modifiable, go ahead and tweak them as you see fit to come up with the style of game you want to play. Adjust the results for different plays, perhaps. Now for some specific modifications. Like many people say online, the kicking game in the NFL changed and evolved over time. So you may decide to allow for 49 or 50-yard field goal attempts. Originally, the chart maxed out at around 46, I believe. The new kicking system also uses a couple of D20 rolls instead of many multiple D6 rolls, so that's better as well. Other mods. Oh, this was interesting. I scratched off and then replaced an entire column from the offense charts. It accounted for, get this, punts on any down other than the fourth. Must be a page torn from the Atlanta Falcons playbook. Any OG NFL fans out there, help me out on this one. Anyway, other changes I made are as follows. I wanted a playbook that was recognizable to me, so I changed the balanced offense deck and left the running and passing decks the way they were. So my game now has gadget plays, draws, slants, play action, quarterback sneaks, trap run formations, reverse runs, check down passes, plunge dives, screen passes, Hail Mary passes, post routes, end around runs, and off tackle counters. Feel free to do your own thing to get something you might see on any given Sunday. As far as gameplay tips, I think the game really begins to shine when you call a play that torches the other player's defense. So try calling the exact same play on the very next down. If it does a lot of damage again, you'll start to see some psychological effects on your opponent. Are they really going to try it 3 times in a row? You know that they know you are going to play the perfect defense this time. So something different must be coming. But then again, they already know this. So you get to psych each other out so bad at times, second guessing yourself. You get inside each other's heads, planting flags all up inside their brains. It's good stuff. Other gameplay tips. The first offensive drive you face is really hard to stop because you don't know the opponent's style or tendencies yet. Just don't get discouraged if they score on the first possession. As the game wears on, you'll start to see patterns and it will begin to work to your advantage. Also, don't forget to roll for extra point conversions. After you score a touchdown, you'll tend to just want to write a 7 on the score sheet. Not so fast, you might miss the extra point. I also suggest actual breaks at halftime, just like in a real football game, so you don't get burnt out. Another thing I love about this game is just through the process of keeping track of time and keeping score, you create a detailed record of your game, which means you can save everything effortlessly and even come back the next day or next week or whenever and easily finish where you left off. For this review, I think it's also worth commenting on some of the criticisms some people may have of this game. By the way, these people aren't in the majority as far as I can tell. And yet what some of the critics say, I still tend to disagree with. Some people will say, it's just rock, paper, scissors. Well, okay, rock, paper, scissors with the other, 20 or so hand signs that result in 200 possible outcomes each turn. I also don't remember dice being part of that game. Or the alleged game hack that suggests totally random play calling, particularly on offense, creates such a nightmare for the defending player that no other strategy could possibly be better. So, in effect, a monkey could play this game as well as a human just by selecting random cards. So, this theory on the surface seems to hold some merit. How can you possibly get a read on my tendencies and accurately guess what my next play is going to be if I don't even know what I'm going to be calling next? Well, in practice, there's a couple of problems with this idea. Number one, what guarantee do you have that good randomness will somehow outweigh the bad randomness? Randomness is just that, random, not intrinsically better than normal play. Here's what bad randomness looks like in football strategy. You're backed up on your own 10-yard line. It's 3rd and 1, and randomness dictates a low percentage Hail Mary pass down the field. It doesn't work. And you take a sack in your own end zone and give up a safety. Who does that? No rational player would do that. Or how about this? You're closing in on field goal range. It's 3rd down and 7 at the 50-yard line. And randomness dictates a 2-yard plunge dive ahead by the quarterback. On defense, it gets worse because if someone is playing defense this way, the offense can just play 4-down football with a dedicated power up the middle running attack every play. Since random can't adapt to anything, the wacky defense will call for deep coverage patterns that have no business being called against obvious repeated short yard plays that result in gains that shred through your lines as well as chew up time. That should never happen. Oh, by the way, if you play this way, I guess you won't be managing the clock, which makes it difficult to come back from behind if you're down on points, to protect a lead when you're ahead as the game time winds down. No coach would agree to play football with that disadvantage, which is applicable in this game. Now, admittedly, this style of play can and will generate positive yardage, mostly between the 20-yard lines, but it will come intermittently, usually in sizable chunks between a lot of nothing special moments that eventually fall flat for the dumbest reasons. That's what I've seen. I believe it's still within the realm of possibility to win by playing with no game plan, but it's unlikely and suboptimal here. I did have this happen. A serious player, me, playing the Bills in this case, against a Mr. Rock, Paper, Scissors Ravens fan. Ravens, I know. Exhibit A. So I'll consult an old record sheet from a game I played years ago, and I'm so glad I kept it too. So let me share very briefly some of our game highlights from back in the day. You can get a sense of how this plays out. After the first half, the score was Ravens 0, Buffalo 20, Baltimore 99 yards passing, 38 yards rushing. They had a punt blocked, and they also fumbled the ball once to cap off a dangerous-looking scoring drive. They had one 10-yard penalty in the half. Buffalo had 2 passing TDs, 1 rushing TD for a total of 80 yards passing, 119 yards rushing. I missed an extra point conversion and took 5 penalty yards. Remember, this is only the first half, so I'm up 20-0. And I remember telling this guy, like, play a more sensible offense and an actual defense. Otherwise, you're just going to get smoked again in the second half. And he agreed that a random defense was nonsensical and dropped the concept. But he still insisted on this goofy offense strategy. So here's how the second half went. And I still remember some of these details. So early on, I fumbled a punt return and he jumped on it for a quick touchdown. For that to happen, I had to roll 20 on a D20 twice back to back. He also missed an extra point conversion, but overall I was the more unlucky one. And it wasn't a good start for me for the second half, to say the least. His offense also generated a pretty cool drive that ended with a nice long field goal. And that was about it for him for the rest of the game. I scored another rushing touchdown in the second half. So the final score was Baltimore 9, Buffalo 27. Final game stats: Ravens 92 yards on the ground, 118 yards passing. Bills 231 yards on the ground, 166 yards passing. So Baltimore's stupid defense plan in the first half accounted for the inflated Bills rushing total, no doubt. But otherwise, the game felt a lot like any other playthrough that you're going to get here. It felt like an actual football game. It's amazing how realistic it seems. It's almost weird. It's so impressive. The design here is remarkable for how simple it is. You're just playing football, and the whole thing is so intuitive. Right from the coin toss, you don't even need board game rules if you're familiar with the NFL. One look at the components, and you'll say, ah, I get it. Let's play. So get an old copy if you can, download the new graphic redesign package. You may decide to adjust some playbook results as you see fit. Whatever you do, you'll have a modern looking, simple game with unlimited replay value. So thanks for watching, and please stay tuned for more content coming soon. And remember, if you ever want to keep Detroit Lions players off your property, just put a goalpost in your front yard.